Now, with this episode, this is what I call a kickoff episode. This was the eve before the storm. The rest of the episodes were kind of like the quiet before the storm. Because starting the season, man, Ghost was on top. Ghost has been on top so far. Which is kind of boring to a point. But he has his club. He has his woman. He thinks Kanan is dead. He's got his wish to get out of the game, which is the premise of power, and he did all of that without snitching. So far, Ghost is on top, but us, the viewers, we see the ensnaring plots that's developing around him. We know Kanan's not dead. Us and Ghost knows that Lobos isn't dead. There's Greg, right? Ruiz is back. Tommy is contemplating trying to kill him. So we see all of these things developing around Ghost, and that's why it's kind of been the quiet before the storm. And then there's also been a lot of other developing stories. The family story. We've been dealing with a lot of that. Season 3, and see, this episode is very important. Episode 4, right? Because we were kind of led to think that this was going to be a season full of drama. Because ending season 2, we know Lobos is still alive, we know Kanan is still alive, and we know the scenario with Tommy. And Tasha thinks Ghost killed Sean. You got Mike. We now discover Mike is working for Lobos. And then you got Dre hooking up with Ghost, which should be a challenging relationship. So all of these things that was told to the viewer, they led us to believe that this season was going to be fire. And so far it's been a slow burn, more of a slow burning kind of fire, but Power is written very creative. It moves on a good rhythm and a good beat. So this episode, this might have been one of the more violent episodes of Power altogether. You got the jewelry heist scene with Kanan, and then you got Ghost kicking into action, saving Tommy's ass when the Koreans try to gun him down. Which that scenario, Tommy and the Koreans, I like that. I like that they threw that in there at us. I didn't see that developing. I should have. Because every time he went to go deal with those Koreans, man, the son was getting more and more pissed at Tommy. His aggression towards Tommy was just growing. So we should have saw that coming. So that was important though, because that kind of throws us back to season 1 when you had all of these, you had all of these different angles, and it just shows you the world, that world that they live in. The threat might not be Lobos always. The threat can come from somewhere else. And that's kind of that sets up the whole thing with Ghost and Tommy and how they see stuff and how Ghost is cerebral. Ghost won't always go to who you might think it is. Ghost might have sat back. Tommy thinks it's Lobos that tried to kill him. But when in actuality it's the Koreans. And I think Ghost, the way his mind works, he might not have figured that out, but he wouldn't have been so quick to say it's Lobos. If there's not that much violence per se, I think the whole drama with Ruiz, that's gonna pretty much guide the show. That's what's gonna light up the show. Actually Lobos would kind of want to keep Ruiz alive. If you think about it, he wants Ghost dead. He got Tommy. But as far as being a guy to take over and be the distributor, he probably would rather deal with Ruiz. I mean, the job is open right now. And like Ruiz, they kind of, what you might have could have thought was a foreshadowing moment in season 1, when Ruiz, he told Lobos, man, why don't you deal with somebody that speaks Spanish like you, And Ruiz is smarter than Tommy and more controllable than Ghost. So it's just, it's just interesting that, he elects to take a stand on a lie. I think that's very interesting. Because I think him being the number one distributor is off the table. Especially with Mike, Mike knowing, Mike is right there. You know what I'm saying? He's the eye in the sky for Ruiz when it comes to that kind of information. He is one of the elements that gives you anticipation for the next episode 5 as well. Her and Ruiz, they almost joined at the hip. Holly and Ruiz, man, what a combination, right? But here's the thing with Holly, right? A lot of people, Holly is probably the most irritating character of Power, right? Like a lot of people want Holly just killed off. They want Holly killed off, man. But the thing about it is, Holly actually moves the story along in an irritating way. She's a pest, she's a nuisance, but she moves the story along. She's like a fine line that links everything together, that links a number of things together, If it wasn't for Holly, Angela wouldn't have known who Ghost was. And that was very much foreshadowed from season 1 to season 2. It was very powerfully written. Matter of fact, even with how season 1 ended, because it ended with, Holly, strangely enough, kind of saved Ghost's life. When the assassin came in and shoot Ghost, she wound up shooting Holly because she was standing in front of Ghost, arguing with him. Now, what was important about that scene was she called him Ghost in public in front of a gang of people. And in season 2, another foreshadowing moment, Ghost told Tommy about that. He checked Tommy about that, right? So in a lot of ways, Holly is kind of Tommy's creation, and I'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, Holly is the one. She's the one that awakens. Holly's the one that awakens Angela to who Ghost really is. And and Angela wouldn't have been able to see that without Holly. Because she was just blind to it. She was in love, and it was something she didn't want to see. But once Holly told her, her mind as a Fed, her mind as a cop and as a Fed, made her pay attention to all of the signals. Why I say Holly is Tommy's creation. Tommy told Holly too much. Matter of fact, Tommy messed up with Holly. This is where he messed up with Holly. This is where Tommy messed up with Holly. Starting off, he should have never had her quit her job. Because the kind of person Holly is, Holly actually function well if she's given something to do. If she's given something to do, she'll be less mischievous. Without something to do, she's gonna get into something. And working under Ghost, she actually excelled well. That's something people forget about. Episode 1, when she was working for Ghost, they were actually a good tandem. And we've seen that in season 2. But episode 1, when guys were dealing drugs in Ghost's club, Holly was real good at catching them and spotting them. As soon as Tommy took Holly off her job, and then she started getting in the way. She started getting in the way. So that was how he messed up. That was the first mistake. That was the first strike. And then telling Holly all of their business. You told her too much. You implicated her. That was bad because when she wound up getting pulled over by the police, now she actually has to lie instead of telling the truth. And then the weak thing about that scene hated me. And that is, man, they was only pressuring you with 2 or 3 years. You know, Ghost and Tommy, man, they got like life hanging over their heads. You know, they got football numbers, man. And they pressured you with 2 or 3 years and you was ready to give up your man. You know, Tommy would have took care of you. He would have put money on your books. You know, so a lot of people thought they gave her pointers for that. I mean, I do to a point, but to another point, man, it's like, well, you was ready to give it all up. You know, for 3 years, right? But still, a scenario created by Tommy. Because if Tommy doesn't tell her about their business, then she has nothing to tell them. You know, she has nothing to tell them. And see, the thing with Holly is, she's a different kind of criminal. She's more like a halfway crook. And Power is very interesting in showing you the different levels of criminality. You know, you got organized crime, you got the guys on the corner, and you got the people like Holly that's, you know, they touched on her a little bit. She's more into the credit card schemes and those kind of things. That's, you know, the time she'll get is a couple of years, you know. So Tommy is wrong for including her into this life. And now, the whole way she's handling this thing with Ghost, that was too much information. That was way too much information to kill Ghost. I mean, I know that's your woman, but she's not built for that life, man. And even how she's, you know, why don't you just kill him already? That ain't something you can just do. You know, it's like make me wanna call her out her name, man, but I'm not gonna disrespect women on this channel. But man, you know, why don't you just kill him already? You know, and when she becomes pregnant, then we feel her desire more.